Imagine a world tens of thousands of years ago, where survival was a daily battle against nature, predators, and scarcity. In this harsh prehistoric landscape, some humans were born with Down syndrome. How did these individuals survive? Were they abandoned, feared, or cared for by their tribes? Today, we uncover the astonishing truth of how early humans treated those with differences, revealing a story of resilience, empathy, and survival that history almost forgot. Welcome to History TimeRift, where we journey through the shadows of the past to uncover the untold stories that shaped humanity. From ancient civilizations to mysterious events lost in time, we bring history to life one riveting tale at a time. Let's dive in. In this world, physical and cognitive differences among people were not just noted, they were critical to the tribe's dynamics. Archaeological evidence shows that prehistoric humans lived in small, tight-knit groups, where cooperation was essential. Each member had roles, whether hunting, gathering, child-rearing, or crafting tools. Those who could not perform certain tasks faced unique challenges, yet their contributions in other ways were often recognized. Anthropologists have discovered skeletal remains from thousands of years ago that show signs of conditions we now identify as Down syndrome. These remains, often found in burial sites, tell a story that goes beyond mere survival. They offer insight into how early humans may have treated individuals with differences. For instance, some skeletons with clear physical traits of Down syndrome show evidence of care and protection, such as healed fractures or indications that the individual lived well beyond infancy, suggesting they were supported by their community. While it's impossible to know exactly how prehistoric people felt, it's reasonable to imagine a mix of fear, curiosity, and compassion. Life was tough, and anyone unable to hunt or gather could be seen as vulnerable. Yet, the very fact that some individuals with Down syndrome survived into adulthood indicates that they were cared for, perhaps not out of modern notions of morality, but as an essential part of the social fabric. Tribes depended on cohesion, and no one was entirely expendable. Interestingly, evidence from cave art, though sparse, hints that prehistoric humans were aware of physical differences. Some figurines and carvings depict children and adults with distinctive facial or bodily features, which scholars speculate could reflect individuals with genetic variations. While we cannot claim certainty, these depictions show that diversity was noticed and perhaps even integrated into their worldview. The first part of our journey shows that survival in prehistoric times was intertwined with observation, adaptation, and social bonds. Individuals with Down syndrome, though physically and cognitively different, were likely recognized as part of this fragile ecosystem. How they were treated, however, depended heavily on their ability to contribute to the community and the compassion of those around them. The second chapter of our story begins with bones, the silent storytellers of history. When archaeologists uncover ancient remains, they look for clues not just about how people died, but how they lived. Certain skeletal markers reveal chronic conditions, including the distinctive features associated with Down syndrome. These include shorter limbs, particular shapes of the skull, and sometimes spinal abnormalities. One striking discovery comes from Neolithic burial sites in Europe. Some individuals with these markers were buried with tools, ornaments, or food offerings, evidence that they were valued members of their society. This is important because survival in prehistoric times required constant contribution. If someone were consistently abandoned, they would rarely reach adulthood. Yet these burials indicate care, planning, and a sense of inclusion. Anthropologists also note signs of medical care or attention in prehistoric communities. Healed fractures and prolonged survival suggest that others fed, protected, or otherwise assisted individuals with disabilities. Imagine a small group huddled around a fire, someone gently tending to a weaker member, ensuring they received food or warmth. This may have been the reality for people with Down syndrome. It paints a picture of empathy embedded in survival strategies. Some researchers argue that prehistoric treatment of those with Down syndrome was a mix of pragmatic care and social necessity. If a tribe saw value in every individual, even if their abilities were limited, they would naturally provide protection. On the other hand, some groups may have faced harsher decisions when resources were scarce. Survival often demanded difficult choices, and not every individual with a disability survived. But there's more. Evidence from cranial remains suggests that some individuals may have participated in rituals or community events. These findings hint at social inclusion beyond mere survival. In some cases, people with Down syndrome may have held specific roles suited to their abilities, whether symbolic, artistic, or supportive. Their differences did not necessarily exclude them. Instead, they may have shaped unique contributions to the tribe's culture. Thus, the bones reveal a story of resilience and community. They show that prehistoric humans, despite living in a brutal environment, recognized the humanity of those with differences. Care, inclusion, and adaptation were survival tools as much as acts of compassion. In small prehistoric communities, everyone had a role, and social cohesion was crucial. People with Down syndrome, though perhaps unable to hunt or carry heavy loads, likely found ways to contribute. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies offer insights. Individuals with cognitive or physical differences often help in child care, crafting simple tools, gathering safe foods, or participating in rituals and storytelling. Prehistoric societies valued skills differently than we do today. Strength and speed were essential for hunting, yes, but memory, observation, and social support were also valuable. Someone with Down syndrome may have had difficulty with certain tasks but excelled in others, like caring for children, collecting herbs, or assisting the elderly. These contributions reinforced bonds and increased the chances of survival for the entire group. Ethnographic parallels also suggest that these individuals could have held symbolic significance. In some cultures, people with unique physical traits were seen as special or even sacred. While we cannot confirm this in prehistoric times, it's possible that individuals with Down syndrome were recognized in similar ways, respected for their differences, or included in rituals and spiritual practices. Their presence may have strengthened group identity or reinforced the community's moral values. Family bonds were crucial. Archaeological evidence shows that prehistoric humans cared for their sick, injured, and differently abled. Individuals with Down syndrome were likely embedded in extended family units that provided protection and guidance. Survival was a team effort, and no one was entirely expendable. The community's willingness to adapt tasks and roles to include every member may have been a defining factor in the longevity of early human groups. Understanding these social dynamics helps us reframe prehistoric life. It wasn't only about hunting or gathering, it was also about relationships, care, and inclusion. People with Down syndrome likely played their part in the social ecosystem, contributing to survival and cultural continuity in ways that might seem subtle but were profoundly important. Despite the care and inclusion some individuals received, life in prehistoric times was far from easy for anyone with Down syndrome. Survival pressures were immense. Food scarcity, predation, and disease threatened all humans, but individuals with cognitive or physical differences were particularly vulnerable. Their dependence on others was critical, and when resources were scarce, they faced heightened risk. Anthropologists studying skeletal remains note that some individuals show signs of malnutrition, injury, or early death. These findings remind us that prehistoric life was brutal and that survival was never guaranteed, even for those fully integrated into their communities. Yet, the very fact that some individuals with Down syndrome reached adulthood and were cared for long-term is remarkable. It demonstrates both resilience and a deep capacity for social care in early humans. Cognitive differences may have posed challenges in communication, learning, and social integration. Prehistoric humans relied heavily on nonverbal cues, imitation, and communal knowledge transfer, which may have allowed people with Down syndrome to adapt in meaningful ways. Supportive family members or group members could guide them, assigning roles suited to their abilities and ensuring their safety. It's important to remember that treatment in prehistoric times was not medical in the modern sense. There were no therapies, medications, or formal education. Instead, care took the form of nurturing, protection, and inclusion. Feeding, guarding, and providing shelter were the primary ways tribes supported vulnerable individuals. In this context, survival itself was a form of acknowledgement and respect. Despite the hardships, prehistoric communities show evidence of human empathy and ingenuity. They adapted to ensure the survival of those who could not fully fend for themselves. This suggests that even in the harshest conditions, humans have long valued diversity and recognized the importance of caring for one another. Looking back at how people with Down syndrome may have been treated in prehistoric times offers profound lessons. First, survival and inclusion often went hand in hand. Communities that cared for all members, even those who were physically or cognitively different, were more cohesive and resilient. This is a powerful reminder of the value of empathy, cooperation, and adaptability principles that still resonate today. Second, prehistoric humans highlight the diversity of human experience. Life was not uniform, and differences were noticed, accommodated, and sometimes celebrated. Individuals with Down syndrome were not erased from history. They contributed, lived, and left traces of their existence for us to study. Their lives, though challenging, were intertwined with the survival of their communities and the evolution of human society. Third, archaeology and anthropology teach us that care and inclusion are not modern inventions. The roots of empathy, compassion, and social support go back tens of thousands of years. Prehistoric humans had no formal rules or laws, yet they found ways to nurture, protect, and value those who were vulnerable. These practices shaped the development of social structures and human culture itself. Finally, studying prehistoric treatment of people with Down syndrome reminds us to honor the resilience of the human spirit. Life in those times was dangerous, unpredictable, and unforgiving. Yet, individuals with differences not only survived, they participated, contributed, and were remembered through the care and respect of their communities. Their stories, written in bones, artifacts, and careful observation, connect us to a shared human heritage that values life in all its diversity. Prehistoric times may seem distant, but they reveal a timeless truth: empathy, inclusion, and adaptability are essential to human survival. People with Down syndrome, through their resilience and the care of those around them, were an integral part of this ancient story. Their lives remind us that humanity is defined not just by strength or skill, but by the capacity to care for one another, even in the harshest of circumstances. Thanks for watching History TimeRift. Like, subscribe, and comment your favorite era. We'll explore it next.